Hello to all viewers. Hello to everyone. I am Shiloh, the last scribe for the house of Jacob. I am a messenger and a true servant of the Almighty. On November 29th, 2019, the Almighty will visit the earth to judge every living thing. On that day, every living thing will be given life or death. The Almighty has caused me to see who I am and to know that I am a real descendant of the house of Jacob. This video is part 12 of a series of videos titled The Book of Genesis, Unsealed and Untold. And these series of videos covers everything in the book of Genesis from chapter 1 to chapter 50. With all the confusion removed, with all the allegories removed, in these series of videos you will hear the truth according to the Almighty, according to what the Almighty commanded the house of Jacob to keep recorded. Part 11 ended with Abram's brother Lot offering his 2 daughters to the men of Sodom, so the men of Sodom would not defile the messengers of the Almighty who were visiting Lot at his home. So I will continue where I left off. Let's begin video number 12. Lot went out the door to them and shut the door behind himself. Lot spoke to them, saying, "My brethren, I pray you do not be evil and act so wickedly. Now I have 2 daughters that are betrothed, but they have not known a man. I hope you will let me bring them out to you all, and you will do whatever you think is good to them. You can do whatsoever your soul tells you is good. Only do nothing to these men, because they are under the protection of my roof." They answered Lot, saying, "You stand back. At least one of those fellows that came here to sojourn needs to be judged now, or we will deal worse with you than with them." They pressed sore for the man, even upon Lot, and they came near to break down the door. But the messengers of the Almighty in Lot's home used the strength and power of their hands to pull Lot back into the house to them, and they shut the door behind him. Then the Sodomites, who are persons that engage in religious sex rituals, at the door of the house were struck with blindness, so that they were grieved, and they exhausted themselves trying to find the door. The messengers of the Almighty spoke to Lot, asking, "Have you any other family here? If you have a son-in-law, sons, daughters, or whatever you have in the city, bring them out of this place, because the Almighty is going to destroy this place. The outcry in this city has grown to be great against the Almighty. The honor given to their outcry against the Almighty has grown to be great. Therefore, the Almighty, the all-supreme ruler, is going to destroy this city of excitement, terror, and anguish." Now when the morning arose, the messengers of the Almighty were rushing Lot, and spoke to him, saying, "Take your wife and your 2 daughters that are here out of this city, unless you be consumed along with the sin of this city." Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, saying, "You get up and you get out of this city, because the Almighty is going to destroy it." But to them, Lot seemed like one that mocked them. Now Lot began lingering and delaying himself. Because the Almighty was merciful to Lot, the messengers of the Almighty laid hold unto his hand, and unto the hand of his wife, and unto the hand of his 2 daughters, and they brought them forth and set them outside the city. It came to pass, when the messengers of the Almighty had brought them forth and set them abroad, they spoke to Lot, saying, "Run for your life. Do not look behind yourselves, and do not stay in all this plain. Escape to the mountain, unless you be killed." Lot responded, saying, "Oh, not so, my fellow servant of the Almighty. Now if I have found grace in your sight, and you have magnified your mercy that you have showed unto me by saving my life, but I cannot escape to the mountain unless some evil take me and I die prematurely. I cannot escape to the mountain unless some evil take me, and I am put to death by a magician of necromancy." Look and see, there is a city near to me where I can escape to, and it is a little one. Is it not a little one? Oh, let me escape there, and I will live my life. One of the two messengers spoke to Lot, saying, The Almighty has accepted you concerning your request, so he will not overthrow that city you have spoken of. Now, run away to escape there, because nothing will be done until you make it there. The name of the city was called Zoar. Now the sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then from out of heaven the Almighty rained brimstone, fire, upon the city of Sodom and upon the city of Gomorrah. The Almighty overthrew those cities of the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities. During their escape, Lot's wife looked back behind herself, and she became a statue of salt. Now Abraham had gotten up early that morning and went back to the place where he stood before the Almighty. Abraham looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain. Like smoke coming out of a furnace, Abraham saw smoke going up from the land. It came to pass, when the Almighty destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he overthrew the cities where Lot dwelt. But the Almighty had sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. Now Lot went up out of Zoar, and lived in the mountain. His 2 daughters were with him. Lot was scared to live in Zoar. Because of his fear, he lived in a cavern in the mountains, he and his 2 daughters. Afterwards, Lot's firstborn daughter spoke to the younger, saying, Our father is old, and in all the earth there is not a man to come in unto us that will follow after our moral character. In all the earth there is not a man to come in unto us that will follow after our habits and our way of living. Come, let us make our father drink wine. Then we will lie with him so we can preserve the seed of our father. That night they made their father drink wine until he was drunk. And the firstborn went in, and laid with her father in sexual relations. Now Lot was not aware, and did not consider. He did not know when she laid down with him in sexual relations, nor was he aware when she arose. And it came to pass on the next day, the firstborn spoke to the younger, saying, Look, you saw last night, I laid with my father in sexual relations. This night, let us make him drink wine also. Then you go in and lie with him in sexual relations, so we can preserve the seed of our father. That night, they made their father drink wine also. Then his younger daughter arose and laid with him in sexual relations. Lot was not aware and did not consider. He did not know when she lay down with him in sexual relations, nor was he aware when she arose. Thus both daughters of Lot were with child by their father. Now the firstborn gave birth to a son and called his name Moab. The same is the ancestral father of the Moabites unto this day. The younger daughter, she also gave birth to a son. She called his name Ben-Ammi. The same is the ancestral father of the children of Ammon unto this day. Now from there Abraham journeyed toward the south country and dwelled between Kadesh and Shuor. Then he journeyed in Gerar, a Philistine town south of Gaza. And Abraham spoke to his wife Sarah, saying, spoke of his wife Sarah, saying, She is my sister. Avimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took possession of Sarah. But by night, in an ordinary dream, the Almighty came to visit Avimelech and spoke to him, warning him, saying, Look and see, you are but a dead man, because the woman that you have carried off and taken possession of is another man's wife. Now Avimelech had not come near to Sarah sexually, so he answered, saying, My master, will you kill a righteous nation? Did not Abraham tell me she is my sister? She herself spoke and declared, saying, He is my brother. I have done this of my heart with perfect integrity. My hands are innocent. And in this dream the Almighty continued speaking to him, saying, Yes, I know that you did this of your heart with perfect integrity, because I withheld you from sinning against me. I, the Almighty, did not put it upon you to touch her. Now, bring Abraham's wife back to him, because he is my prophet. He speaks and declares my prophecies, and he will judge you. If he prays for you, then you will live. If you do not bring his wife back to him, then you know, as a penalty of neglecting wise conduct and good morals, you and all that is yours will die prematurely. Suddenly you will all be put to death, and your nation will perish. So early in the morning Avimelech arose and called all his servants. He told all those things in their ears, and the men were terrified and very afraid of seeing those terrible things. Avimelech called for Abraham and spoke to him, asking, What have you done to us? How and when have I offended you? What did I do to make you bring a great sin unto me and to my kingdom? Your actions and the things you have done toward me should not be done. Avimelech spoke to Abraham, asking, What have you observed? What have you seen that made you do this thing? And Abraham answered, Because I thought for certainty the fear of the Almighty, the fear of his terror, and the respect of his morals is not in this place. Therefore you will kill me to take my wife for yourself. Yet, indeed, she is a sister of my nation of people, but she is not the daughter of my mother. She is the adopted daughter of my father, and she became my wife. It has come to pass, when the Almighty caused me to journey away from my father's house, that I spoke to her and commanded, saying, This is your kindness that you will show unto me at every place we will come to. You will speak of me, saying, He is my brother. Avimelech took sheep, oxen, men servants, and women servants. Then he gave them to Abraham, and restored his wife Sarah back unto him. Avimelech spoke, saying, Look and see, my land is in front of you. Live wherever it pleases you. Unto Sarah he spoke, saying, Look and see, I have given the brother of your nation of people 1,000 pieces of silver. Look and see, he is to you a covering of the eyes, unto all that are with you, and with all others. Thus she was corrected. Because of Abraham's wife Sarai, or Sarah, the Almighty had quickly closed up all the wombs of the house of Avimelech. Now Abraham meditated and prayed unto the Almighty, and the Almighty, the Creator of all things, healed Avimelech's house, his wife, his maidservants, and they gave birth to children. The Almighty kept Sarah in his remembrance, and he cared for her. He paid attention to her and watched over her, as the Almighty had appointed, as he had spoken. The Almighty did unto Sarah as he had spoken. At the set time the Almighty had spoken to Abraham, Sarah conceived. Then she brought forth a son, who was of Abraham's lineage. It came to pass, when this happened, Abraham was in his old age. Abraham chose and invited guests to preach to them. Abraham preached to them about the Almighty. Abraham brought his son before his guests and declared him to be of his own lineage, and called his name Isaac. Sarah spoke to the guests, saying, The Almighty has caused me to laugh merrily, so that all that hear me will laugh merrily with me. Sarah continued speaking, saying, Who would have spoken to Abraham, saying, Sarah should have given you a baby, and asking, Can Sarah be a nursing mother? Look and behold, in his old age and in my old age I have conceived by him, and I have given birth to a son for him. As the Almighty had commanded, Being 8 days old, Abraham circumcised the flesh of his son Isaac by cutting the foreskin off his flesh. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. Afterwards, this time, Abraham corrected Avimelech because a well of water that Avimelech's servants had violently taken away. Avimelech spoke to Abraham, saying, You did not tell me. I was not the one who has appointed this thing, neither have I heard about it until today. At that time it came to pass that Avimelech and Phicol spoke to Abraham. Phicol is a Philistine. He is the chief captain of Avimelech's host of soldiers. So Avimelech spoke to Abraham, saying, The Almighty is with you in everything that you do. Now, here, take an oath with me by the Almighty, that you will not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done to you, you will do to me, and you will do unto the land where you have lived in. And Abraham responded, saying, I will take an oath. So Abraham took some of his sheep and oxen and gave them to Avimelech. Then both of them made a friendship, an alliance, and a covenant between one another. Then Abraham set 7 young lambs of the flock by themselves. Avimelech spoke to Abraham, asking, What do the 7 young lambs that you have set by themselves mean? And Abraham answered, saying, For those 7 young lambs that I have given you out of my hand, they will be a witness to me and you that I have dug this water well. Abraham called that place Beer-sheba, because there he and Avimelech took an oath. They made a friendship, an alliance, a covenant at Beer-sheba. Then Avimelech and Phicol rose up and returned into the land of the Philistines. Now, over time, Abraham planted a grove of tamarisk trees in Beer-sheba. Then there he chose guests and invited guests to preach to them the everlasting authority, the reputation, the honor, the glory, and the character of the Almighty. Abraham lived in the Philistines' lands many days. Now Isaac was nourished in body and mind, and he grew strong, to be very strong. And he showed he was able to do good and deal rightly on his own. He showed he was able to give out what is good and right on his own. Because of this, Abraham prepared a great feast. At the feast, Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Hagar the Egyptian, who Hagar gave birth to for Abraham. Sarah observed him and considered. She saw him mocking Isaac and using him as a toy. So she spoke to Abraham, saying, Throw this maidservant and her son out. The son of this maidservant will not be heir with my son Isaac. Sarah's judgment in this matter was very displeasing in the sight of Abraham, and it grieved Abraham because of his son. Then the Almighty visited Abraham. He spoke to Abraham, saying, Do not be displeased because of the boy and his mother, and all that Sarah has spoken to you. Listen to her voice and obey what she is saying. I, the Almighty, have chosen Isaac. It is Isaac's seed that carries your descendants of moral quality. It is Isaac's seed that carries your descendants who will be summoned to proclaim the important things of the Almighty. From your son Ishmael, because he is your child, I, the Almighty, will make a great nation of Gentile people from him. Then Abraham arose up early in the morning. He took some food, bread, and some water, and gave it to Hagar. Abraham put the bag on her shoulder, along with her child Ishmael. Then Abraham sent them away. Hagar departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beer-sheba. Now the water she had was gone, and she placed her child under one of the shrubs. She went and sat down opposite to him a short way off. Hagar spoke to herself, saying, Let me not see the death of my child. As she sat over opposite to him, Hagar raised her voice and wept. Now the Almighty heard the voice of the boy and his mother. Then, like his voice was speaking from the sky, he called out to Hagar and spoke to her, saying, Hagar, do not be troubled. I have considered your voice. I have heard your cry. I heard the cry of the boy. Do not fear. Arise and lift the boy up. Hold him in your arms, because I, the Almighty, will make him become a great nation of Gentile people. Then the Almighty opened her eyes and caused her to be observant. And Hagar saw a well of water near. So she went and filled her bottle with water, then gave the boy drink of water. And the Almighty watched over Hagar's boy, and the boy grew to become strong. The boy lived in the wilderness. He became an archer, and the bow was his strength. He lived in a place of caverns, in the wilderness of Paran. For his possession, his mother got him a wife from out of the land of Egypt. Now Abraham lived in Beersheba, and after these things it came to pass. It was told to Abraham, saying, Look, Milcah, she has given birth to children for your brother Nahor. Nahor's firstborn is Uz, then Buz, then Kemuel, and Kemuel fathered Aram. Nahor also fathered Chesed, and Nahor fathered Haxo. Nahor fathered Pildash. Nahor fathered Yidlaph. Nahor fathered Bethuel. And Milcah gave birth to these 8 sons for Abraham's brother Nahor. Bethuel, son of Nahor, fathered Revkah. And Nahor had a concubine, who was a Syrian woman, whose name was Reumah. For Nahor, Reumah gave birth to Tevach, then to Gakum, then to Takhash, then to Machakah. Now, as a penalty for neglecting wise conduct and good morals, Sarai died prematurely. Suddenly she was put to death. She was killed in Kirjath Arba, in the land of Canaan. After its conquest, the same city is called Hebron. Now Abraham came to mourn for Sarah his wife. He wept for her. Stirred up, Abraham stood up in front of Sarah's dead body. He stood firm. Then he spoke to the sons of Heth. He spoke to those Hittites, saying, I am a stranger and a traveler among you. Give me possession of a burying place among you, so I can bury my dead out of my sight. One of the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying, My Lord, listen and hear us. You are a mighty king among us. In choosing any of our burial places to bury your dead, none of us will stop you from the burial place you choose. Standing up, Abraham humbly bowed himself to the people of the land and to the sons of Heth. Abraham communed with them, saying, If it is set in your mind that I can bury my dead out of my sight, listen and hear me, and be my intercessor for me, between me and the Hittite Ephron, the son of Zoar, so he may give me the cave of Machpelah that he has at the end of his field. He will give it to me for a possession and for a burying place among you, for as much money as it is worth. Ephron lived among the sons of Heth. In an audience of the sons of Heth, and all that went into the gate entrance of his city, Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham, saying, Here, my lord, I will give you the field, and the cave that is there in it. I give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I give it to you for a possession and for a burial place to bury your dead. Abraham humbly bowed himself down in front of the people of the land. In the audience of the people of the land, Abraham spoke to Ephron, saying, I pray that you listen to me. If you give it to me, I will give you money for the field. Take the money from me, and I will bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, saying, Listen to me, my lord. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between me and you? With that you can bury your dead. Abraham listened to Ephron. Then Abraham weighed out the amount of silver that Ephron called out in the audience of the sons of Heth. In the current money of the merchant, it was 400 shekels of silver unto Ephron. The field of Ephron was in Machpelah. Machpelah is before Mamre. The field, all the trees that were in the field, the cave that is there in it, and all the borders around about were guaranteed unto Abraham in the presence of the sons of Heth, and before all that went into the gate entrance of his city. This is the end of part 12 of my video series titled The Book of Genesis, Unsealed and Untold, that covers my manuscript titled The Almighty, the Beginning, His Creation of Mankind, His Promise to Judge Mankind, His War against the Elohim, His New World and His Order. I am Shiloh, the last scribe for the house of Jacob. Watch my videos, follow me, and discover the recorded truth about the Almighty, His power, His glory, His honor, His reputation, His experiences with, and His message to all individual species of persons on the earth.